Welcome to the safe house. Welcome back. All right. So I'm just going to start this video off. I don't really prepare for these videos very much. I just kind of wing it. I always sound like an idiot when I try to prep for it. But I spent some time following, as depressing as it is sometimes, and sometimes I just get so fed up with it. I have to step away and not pay attention to what's happening in the world. But at the same time, I feel a responsibility. As a man in this world, I think I have a responsibility to understanding what's going on. How do I look out for my family and protect my family if I don't have somewhat of a idea of what's going on in the world around me, So I follow geopolitics. I follow the news to a degree, and I have to say, this talk about Gaza, Trump announcing that Gaza is going to become a part of the United States, whatever that means. It already is. Israel is already like the 51st state, if you will. It's already a part of the United States. Say what you want, but Bibi has more respect and sway in American politics than most of the politicians in Congress and in presidential cabinets. So it is a part of the United States. But, if you'll remember, going back in some of these videos, I've talked about the Ben Gurion Canal project, and that if the canal is constructed, it will go right through the northern part of Gaza. And that this was what this is all about. I can't tell you for sure, but looking at the big picture, and that's what we have to do here, because we don't have access to all the same information that these world leaders, Bibi, Trump, Biden, Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of Intelligence, we don't have access to all the classified information that they do. So we have to step back and look at big picture and see things that are happening and understand things this way. And if you do that, October 7th really very likely was allowed to happen by the Israelis. It was time to pull the trigger on this, developing Gaza, getting Palestinians out of Gaza so that this construction project can take place. Because Israel has literally turned Gaza, particularly northern Gaza, from what I understand, into a fucking gravel pit. Into a gravel pit. Rubble. I mean, it looks like Dresden, Germany, like 1945 Dresden, Germany. And so Trump comes out and says the United States is going to take over Gaza and turn it into a great piece of real estate for people of the world. What the fuck are you talking about? I'm sorry. Not that there is anything in Gaza for these people to return to. Not that any of these Palestinians probably or likely have the means to rebuild Gaza, their homes, their churches, their schools, their hospitals. All of this stuff has been turned into fucking gravel. Not that they have the means to really do that, which is all part of the plan. I know. I'm a nut job. But we've said before, if you start predicting things that are going to happen, you likely have a pretty clear perception of things, of the world around you. You probably have of the present. So it is my prediction, at the very least, There will be a ton of gas and oil harvested, if not other minerals. Be a ton of gas and oil harvested out of the Gaza area. And they are already saying it's going to be a great piece of real estate for people of the world. I would imagine maybe Palestinians, but I don't know why Palestinians would want to return there. It's been a horrible place for them. You're right. The Israelis have been fucking tormenting and torturing them for a long time now. You know, I preferred Trump over Kamala, preferred Trump over Biden, but I'm going to say it again. You know, I think I was a little hopeful. I think that Trump has been an outsider and is still an outsider to a degree, but Trump is in the seat of the nature of the beast. He's in the seat of the beast. And the nature of the beast, you know, let's liken it to when you see a wild wolf run down, capture, and shred to pieces a rabbit and eat it, nobody's really upset with that wolf. That wolf is just doing what is in his nature. He's just doing what he's supposed to do. Now, having said that, nations have a choice of whether or not to be the wolf or not, or whether or not they want to be the wolf or the lamb, or you might say the lion. When a lion runs down a gazelle and rips its throat out and then eats it, nobody is judging that lion. You know, so I'm not really judging the United States, other than that, you know, the United States, if they're going to be a superpower, this is just the game you play. I think I would support not being a superpower. I live in a country where we are not a superpower. It is not perfect by any means. Nothing in this world is perfect, other than maybe imperfection is perfectly imperfect. But, you know, this is just nature of the beast. And as much as I would like to think that the United States just gallivants around the world acting only justly and only selflessly, that's just not the nature of the beast. It's just not the nature of the beast. And furthermore, you know, if Trump was this altruistic, which I've never really believed that to be the case, worse than Biden? No. Worse than Kamala? No. I think they've all played the game to get there. But as much as I would like to think that the United States was just this great, perfect nation, they're not. They're a superpower. At the end of World War II, things changed for the United States. They became a superpower. And now their role in the world is different. Same with Russia. Same with China. We're all jockeying for this control. And the world that I would like to live in, and the world that I would prefer for myself and for my family, is not the world that exists. You know, so the United States is going to run down rabbits and gazelles and rip their throats out. And because it's like they say, you fight fire with fire, which actually you can fight fire with water, but you fight fire with fire. And the United States would not have prevailed in World War II if they weren't willing to not only fight the type of war its enemy would fight, but fight it better. You know, so we couldn't always just be the moral high ground. Just nature of the beast. So you watch. Gaza will This is my prediction. It's the 8th of February, 2025, right? God, I don't even know what year it is anymore. But we will see, probably in my lifetime, an alternate canal to the Suez called the Ben Gurion right through Gaza in Israel with some of the world's newest, greatest, most technologically advanced, expensive real estate along this canal, commercial and residential both. And everybody will say, actually, probably not. Nobody will look back and think about what happened over the last 2 years between Israel and Gaza. It will be, what do they call that? Memory hold. It won't be taught in schools. It will be forgotten. The genocide that took place to make this possible. Israel has wanted to displace the Palestinians into Jordan and Egypt for a long time. I think that Israel or Jordan and Egypt and other Arab nations might have considered allowing the refugees into their country, but I think they knew, and I've said this in previous videos too, I think they knew that as soon as those Palestinians were out of there, the alternate to the Suez Canal, the competition to the Suez Canal, would go right through Gaza, and now the Suez is not as profitable and strategic as it is now, which has historically primarily been controlled by the Arabs, which are the enemies to the Western world. It's not that cut and dry, but, and this isn't probably as cut and dry either, but World War II, what was Germany trying to do? Create the Aryan master race is what we're told, right? And I think that there's some truth to that. And eliminating the Jews. And I think there's truth to that, whether it was expulsion from the country or extermination, and to whatever degree, I think both were implemented. What was it? It wasn't just the Jews, but the Jews in support of the Jews fighting this Aryan master race idea. Well, remember, Iran means land of the Aryans. I know you're not taught that in school. It went in that box of all that other really important, fascinating shit you weren't taught in school or through Hollywood or cable television and magazines and newspapers. This is just another point for the non-Aryan world. I'm not going to say just Jewish world, but there again, the Ashkenazis aren't really ethnic Jews anyway, so the whole Jew thing is really kind of irrelevant. That's not minimizing what happened to the Jews in World War II, but these are people. We're all just people. Okay? Black, white, yellow, green, brown, Jew, Christian, Muslim, we're all just people taking different sides, So none of us have a right to exclude other religions or races or nationalities, but we certainly do. Whether you're Jewish or Aryan or German or English or American, Russian, we forget that we're all just people. We start casting stones and pointing fingers and expelling people and exterminating people. Because what happened to the Ashkenazis specifically in World War II, I'm not even going to call them Jews anymore. It's almost just not even worth saying. The people that were so poorly treated, put in camps, and some exterminated or worked to death or expelled from the country. That was all really horrible. That is not a stain on Germans. That's a stain on humanity. Just like it was a stain on humanity when the United States and the Allied forces decided to start, before Germany made this decision, decided to start bombing civilian cities, killing civilians. Germany returned in kind. They started bombing London and, areas that they were able to reach in England. But they didn't start that game. They reciprocated in that. So while all of that was really bad, so was it when Israel decided to start killing and obliterating children in Gaza. Humans, grandparents, parents, children. Some Hamas members, probably. I think very few could be considered their combatants. I don't care what agenda's behind it. I don't care what potential progress or good comes after it. I can't get on board with any of it. I can't get on board with Weimar Germany and the way many of the so-called Jews treated Germans poorly. I can't get on board with the Treaty of Versailles and the nearly 1 million Germans that were starved to death after World War I. I can't get on board with Israelis committing genocide against the Palestinians. I can't get on board with Allied forces firebombing civilians in not just Germany, but for God's sakes, Allied forces killed more Japanese with napalm than they did both atomic bomb, by a lot. 100,000 Japanese incinerated in a single night. I just can't get on board with that stuff. When I was younger, more naive, and just flat out ignorant, there were ways for me to justify, the greater good. The United States is just so much better that, had we not done that, all these great freedoms wouldn't be. I just can't calculate that anymore. It's really easy for us to say, oh, well, we have to send $200 billion to Ukraine to fight the evil Russia, this evil Putin. Maybe Putin, I'm actually pretty impressed by some of his interviews. I think he's a pretty smart guy. Is he altruistic? Is he wonderful? Is he the leader of a perfect nation? Well, I have my doubts. But what do most of us really know about Russia? Other than what we are told on mainstream media. I've studied it a bit. Russia has had its faults, its positives along the years, just like every other country. Because remember, no one race, creed, color, nationality, religion has the market cornered in good or evil. Humans seem to make the same mistakes as a society, as individuals at different times of their life, at different points in history, as everybody else in the world. Russians are not inherently evil. Okay? And I think we like to justify things. It's in our subconscious so that we can support these certain politicians, whether we're Democrat or Republican. It's like we don't want to be wrong. So in order to not be wrong, in order to not have to swallow some of our ego, myself included, well, I'm going to have to go along with, Russiagate, and that Russia is just, Putin's just fucking horrible. Well, sure, maybe call him a dictator. You know, they're supposed to have elections in Russia. I think that it's probably very likely that they're corrupt, like most, at different points. The idea that the United States has had just some bulletproof electoral process in all through history is fucking retarded. Sorry, it's silly. I probably shouldn't use that word, though I'm using it accurately by definition. But I've heard that Russia is really a pretty great nation. I've heard that China's really has a lot of really positive things about it, and that they've done really well in many respects. My neighbors here are Russian. I don't know them really well, but they seem like really nice people. My other neighbor is from Ukraine. She seems like a really nice person. In fact, they get along from everything I can tell. You know, my other neighbors, they're visiting, are from the United States. I have neighbors from Canada, and none of them seem inherently evil or perfect. They all seem generally about the same. I'm sure they've made mistakes in life. I'm sure they're not perfect people now, but really pretty, overall, pretty good people. You know, interesting. So, you know, we have to think, it is important, as exhausted as I can get sometimes at following this stuff, and there's definitely something to be said for stepping back and excusing yourself from it when necessary. I think that it's important for the goal to be critical thinkers, to have the ability to think critically and not as indoctrinated saps. And to do that, we have to let go of our egos. We have to be willing to admit we were wrong at times. We have to be able to, you know, as much, and I've said this before, you know, Trump supporters have fought tooth and nail along the way because, man, the media, the judicial system have really slaughtered this guy, whether he made it easy for him or not. This is, you know, he was swimming upstream, and this is indicative to that. This is what happens when you go against, you know, the beast to a degree. But all of these people that have fought tooth and nail as Trump supporters for him have to be willing to dump his ass at a moment's notice, instead of their egos getting in the way, saying, well, no, I've you know, argued with people for 8 years about how great he is, and now what if I mean, what kind of person would I look like if I were to say I don't agree with him now? He's gone off the deep end, you know, and time will tell whether that's really what is happening here. But you have to be willing to do that. We can't just unconditionally give somebody support in this position. It's actually quite the opposite. We're supposed to use politicians for their time in service of us and then dump them. We can appreciate them afterwards, but we can't idolize these people. Appreciate their service, treat them with respect, and let that be it. I have to say, you know, Biden, I got the feeling that when Biden was out of it, he wasn't on the ticket. It was Kamala and Trump now. You saw, oh man, I think Biden couldn't wait to get the fuck out of there. And I think it's very possible Biden had been compromised with his son, with likely his own actions. This is what they do, the deep state. They manipulate people at whatever cost. They will do whatever they need to have the ability to manipulate people. If they don't have you on video violating children or your family members. You know, if they're unable to blackmail you, they'll shoot you in the face, or at least try. Because at all costs, they will turn you into a puppet. And I think that Biden was fucking stoked to get the fuck out of office and to spend the twilight of his life not doing this shit. You know, I'm not a huge fan of Biden as a politician. I think that he was the stereotypical sucking politician, you know, Satan's Wangus. And, but that's as a politician. On a personal level, you know, he's just another dude. He's just another dude like myself that makes a mistake, an imperfect human being. I wish no harm. I wish for the twilight of his life to be in peace with his family. You know, he said that he, till he was blue in the face, I'm not going to pardon my son. And then he pardoned his son. But I don't know that I wouldn't do the same thing. You know, I think a parent's love for their child, that a parent will do things for their children that a lot of other people won't do for that child. So I don't really judge him for it. I think it was good that Trump pardoned the January 6th people too, which evidently they were going to look at these things case by case. I think there was a lot of horse shit going on that day. I think the FBI, there were instigators. When you look at all of the footage, you know, I think that the vast majority of those people that were put in prison for multiple years didn't belong in prison. You know, so I don't judge Biden really for, I mean, other than he, you know, the politician in him, it's nature of the beast. How he was going to run for a second term. So he had to tell people certain things, true or not. You know, I had somebody make a comment about RFK Jr. had gone back on his word. Yeah, I don't like to see that either. But they all do it. What serves the moment? I have to serve my master, and I have to serve the moment as a politician. It's unfortunate, you know, but this is nature of the beast. This is why, you know, I have to keep this balance in understanding the world around me, understanding politics, but keeping enough distance from it that I don't have a fanatical view of what's really going on. You know, so Ben Gurion Canal, state of the art, Class A real estate, commercial and residential along this canal, gas, oil, rare earth minerals. We probably don't even know to what extent. You watch. This is why they had to go to war with Hamas by turning Gaza into a fucking gravel pit. It's fucking disgusting, quite honestly. But there again, you know, you got to rip the throat out of that gazelle, because that's just what lions do. That's just what lions do. We don't judge that lion. You know, you can't judge Russia for being the biggest, baddest nuclear power in the world, for having more and bigger nukes. They were just doing what lions do. And after World War II, maybe not to the same degree, obviously, but, you know, they turned into a lion. China turned into a lion. The United States is a lion now. We were just little cubs before, but we prevailed. You know, we were able to tear the throat out of our prey. and devour them, feeding ourselves into a big, strong lion. And now, if you want to, maintain king of the jungle, you have to keep feeding your muscles, your instinct. You have to maintain a practice as this lion so that you can keep running down gazelles and ripping the throats out of them. And as much as I would like to see, and sometimes, a lion shows an act of mercy, as I'm sure that these other superpowers do. But if they're not capable of running down the gazelle and ripping its throat out, they don't stay king of the jungle. And so that's just what this is. It's the nature of the beast, the lion beast. So shame on you, Trump. Shame on you, Biden. Shame on you, Benjamin Netanyahu. But we understand, and we don't really judge you for it. You're just fucking lions, devouring your prey. And really, I believe, too, that this is the whole point. I'm a Christian, and probably wouldn't be described like most Christians would. I don't know. It's really not important. But I believe that there will be a time when God, whatever that is, whatever he looks like, he or she looks like, comes and changes things. The first will be last and the last will be first. And he will be the lion, but a different type of lion. And it quite literally says, we return not as a lamb, but as a lion. But this lion doesn't rip the throats out of gazelles. It doesn't devour its prey. This lion sits in his throne, making sure that those other lions don't exist anymore. I don't know if that makes any sense. But I hope that that's the case, because wouldn't it be wonderful to think about living in a world absent of these beasts, where we didn't have to worry about someday being that gazelle, or even watching that gazelle, or just knowing that that gazelle is going to have its throat ripped out at some point and eaten alive. Wouldn't it be nice to know that someday there was a kingdom that was altruistic, that there's going to be a kingdom that was always righteous, that when something started to get out of line, which it wouldn't, that nothing gets out of line, but when something started to become out of balance, it didn't worry about power and control. It worried about justification, that justice and peace. Peace. Where genocide never exists. Selfishness never exists. The desire to manipulate, control, exploit others just doesn't exist. How we get there, who gets there, I don't know. I wish I did. I wish I knew. I wish, what I thought really mattered. But to the beast, it doesn't, So, like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and leave a comment below. Until next time.